Hi, Mike Pangia here, and today we're going to make French toast. Now wait, don't run away. Even if you've been making French toast for years, there's going to be some techniques here and methods of doing things that are different from what you've probably been doing for a long time. So bear with me and take a look. We're going to make some superior French toast. Challah is the perfect bread for French toast, and I strongly recommend that's what you use. I have found from my own baking that sourdough bread doesn't work well. The sour taste of the bread conflicts with the other flavors of the French toast, as does the flavor of rye bread. So if you're going to use something other than challah, I suggest a yeast-risen white bread loaf. We want to cut slices from our challah bread about 1 inch thick. The thickness is important because the thing that makes this French toast so nice is the relationship between the custard-like interior of the slices and the crispy outside. If you make the slices too thick, there'll be too much of the custardy effect. It's almost mushy relative to the crispy part. And if you make it too thin, you won't get enough of the custard effect. So you want to make your slices about 1 inch thick. Now, if you have a small family or you live alone like I do, you might want to freeze the rest of your loaf. And a trick that I do that works pretty well is I alternate the slices so that each slice doesn't match up exactly with the one next to it. And that way, when you take them out of the freezer, you're able to separate them easier. You can grab onto one edge here and pull it apart. Works pretty well. Now, we don't want our bread too fresh to make the French toast, so there are a few different methods we could use. I have a cooling grate here that works well to just leave the bread on there for overnight is good, and in the morning it'll be just right. You could also microwave it briefly and then let it cool, or you could put it in a low temperature oven for 10 or 15 minutes and then let it cool before you use it. Any of those methods will work to take the freshness out of the bread. You don't want it too fresh. We'll need 1 egg for each slice of French toast. And we want to mix it up well. I'm going to put in a tiny bit of milk, maybe a tablespoon or so, just to help keep this egg more liquid. Let it flow easier when we soak it into the outside of the bread. Now, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of table salt. Mix that in. Let's heat a little bit of neutral oil in our pan. I like to get a layer about 1/4 inch thick or so. Get that heated up. Now you'll find some other recipes that say to do this all in butter, but I have an issue with that. The butter really won't get your French toast as crisp as I'd like it to be on the bottom. But in bowing to Julia Child and her theory that butter makes it better, I do want to put a little bit of butter in just for flavor. Now we'll prepare our milk to dip the bread. You can use whole milk, low-fat milk, or if you want to be a little extra decadent, you can use half and half. I like to get about 1/2 inch or so in my pie pan to get started. Now, we'll take the bread and set it in there for a minute or so on each side. Now we're going to take the egg mixture that we made and using a pastry brush, coat the top of each slice of bread with the egg mixture. Now I've prepared some granulated sugar in an old spice bottle which has a top which makes it nice for sprinkling it heavily on the one side of the French toast where we just put the egg. Egg side down into the pan. I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I see the half and half didn't cover the entire slice of bread, so I'm going to pour a little extra on there. Now, same thing. We're going to put the egg mixture on this side, on the second side. And again, we want to sugar coat it. Press each slice down gently to make sure it has good contact with the pan. And then use a fork to tip it up, take a peek. We want to see a nice golden brown color throughout. I think that first slice is ready. We can turn it. Once again, I want to press it down gently to make sure I have as much contact with the pan as possible. Well, this one looks good. Perfect. This one could use another little bit. And we're good here. You may notice I didn't use any syrup on our French toast. That's because the sugar coating on both sides has caramelized and eliminates the need for the syrup. Summarizing, use challah bread, and you'll have to buy it unsliced so you can slice it into 1-inch thick slices. The thickness of the slice is important in this recipe. Make them 1 inch. Now, normally, with most French toast recipes, you mix egg and milk, and that's the dip for the bread, and you go on to fry it. In this case, in this recipe, the milk and the eggs are done separately because they each have a separate function. The milk creates the custard-like interior of the toast, and the egg batter creates the crispy outer layer. So you have to do it that way. Stick with me on this. Trust me, it's going to be wonderful. French toast, French toast, French toast. You're not French, nor are you toast.